of the call at all.
I thought we'd just start the show with a little BG breakdown of the refs there, but let's go ahead and do the theme song for old time's sake. I thought we'd just start the show with a little BG breakdown of the refs there.
Sports, when you've got a great ball club. Sports, when you're leaving it all on the field. Sports, when you like your team's chances. Sports, to survive and advance in sports. For the teams you love and the teams you love to hate. Oh, it's Sports Channel 8. Yeah. Sports Channel 8. Hey! Hey! Hey!
It is Sports Channel 8, the streaming show, coming at you live on a Wednesday. That means it's a Sports Channel 8 game show Wednesday. Our special guest will be joining us in just a few minutes. Of course, if you follow on Twitter or anywhere else, you know who it is. Our man Mark Armstrong once held the
painter?
Yes, the Wow One Day painter. The once esteemed job of local TV sports anchor. Now I can't really name many of the local TV sports anchors. We'll talk about that. Talk about all things with Mark Armstrong. We are presented by Movement Mortgage. They are a Q1 mortgage lender. So I guess if you defeat them on the road, you get I don't know how that works. But talk to Josh Goodson for all your movement mortgage needs. That's what we did. That's what you should do as well. Also, as I mentioned, you can see us right now on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Facebook and YouTube, we can see your comments. So go ahead and drop them in, drop questions, ref complaints, NCAA tournament team predictions, whatever you want, drop them in the comments. And then after the show, you can drop the podcast drops, so you can pick that up as well. Find that on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Let's say what's up to everybody starting below me who's watching out for illegal screens because the refs are calling them, and flopping warnings. Watch out for them. They're coming. Brian Geisinger of ACCSports.com and the Buzz Beat podcast. What's up, dude?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
Doing well. To my left, shilling for Tim Hortons. No. Tim Hortons sucks. Still trying to get advertisers, although the spots are filling up. Hit us up at SC8 at sportschannel8.com if you're interested in
It's Moose at sportschannel8.com.
Yeah, that's separate. That's separate real estate. If you want to get on the antlers, that's all Moose.
That's true. Probably.
Well, give us the Christmas tree story, Moose. Because
what's up with that?
What's going on?
I'm just a moose, man, trying to casually live out in my environment right now. No, this is one of the so that's one. You see the other one right here.
Yep.
What?
Yeah, and then even further back, there's a third.
Yeah,
these are all trees that have to go to the attic, and naturally, my wife does not help with any of this, other than telling me they need to go to the attic.
Is it tough because at your house the attic is maybe downstairs?
It's true.
He's got a cellar.
So are those all fake trees, Moose? You're not even a live tree guy?
Oh, we got one live tree outside.
And words to the wise,
like a real Christmas tree that's like that you use, or like are you just saying like a big green tree that's like the Christmas tree that you use?
We got a lot of big green trees, but no, this is actually a live Christmas tree that's outside the front door with lights and everything.
I used to have a lot of green trees at my house, but not as many now. Speaking words to the wise, Moose, don't be careful. Don't assume that your wife does not watch the live stream. I made that mistake when I commented. We were at the UNC Duke game, Duke UNC game, and we left a little early, and I kind of threw it on our wives not understanding the timeout schedule as much. I got it. Seriously, we'd had like an uncommonly nice text exchange in the morning. It was like, oh yeah, I hope you have a great day. It's like, that's not our normal thing. We're kind to each other, but normally we're not going out of our way to be like, oh wow, I really had a great, whatever. And I pick up my phone after the show, and it just goes, F you, I know the timeout schedule.
So full disclosure, I got a text almost verbatim to that, at least the first two words of that, just now, because my wife in her domestic engineering job heard me from downstairs.
Be careful. Do not assume that your wife is not listening to the live stream or that she can't hear you if she's in the house.
If you see me get violently pulled away from the screen, just ignore it for right now.
Can I just say I love my wife if she is watching this right now? Like
you got the most to work. You got a very pregnant wife, so you need to be doing all the good work, Josh Goodson. It's always weird when he adjusts his computer and the background doesn't move. But he is Josh Goodson. Let's talk about, again, Mark Armstrong is going to join us to play the game show in a little bit. You can play along. We're going to talk about what's wrong with the Carolina Hurricanes. We're going to talk about what the NBA All-Star, whoever makes the decision, finally got right. But let's also talk about some ACC finishes. Close game Monday night where Virginia beat Duke. If you want to see our breakdown of the final play, check out the video on Twitter at Sports Channel 8 or on the TikToks. But most people, aside from talking about that play in general, most people come away talking about almost like Goodson and I have hit this before. Duke looks like they should be scary Duke, but scary Duke doesn't lose to bad Virginia at home. Brian Geisinger, why is Duke losing games like that?
I mean, it was a super physical game. Duke almost won. Like, Reese Beekman makes that shot probably 40% of the time, right? I guess you can say like it shouldn't come down to the final possession, but I thought Virginia made that game incredibly physical. Like they dragged it into the mud, and I don't think Duke could like quite get it out of there, like they did against Clemson in another game a couple weeks ago that was really physical, or like they did against Georgia Tech a couple weeks ago, another game in Durham that was really physical. The double teams worked against Paolo Banchero. We'll see if maybe other teams will try that, but he's a really good passer, and very tall. So you've got to be careful about how much you want to double him, but that really worked. And then I just thought there were some like defensive breakdowns. Like ultimately, I think Duke scored well enough to like win this game once the offense got clicking in the second half. But to give up, almost 110 points per 100 possessions in that game to UVA, and just a couple like overhelps around the basket by Mark Williams, like not even like the last defense, the breakdown in the final play, which I don't feel like particularly great about isolating and assigning blame because it was sort of all over the place. But I just thought there were some key defensive breakdowns. Virginia got to the paint too much and was able to like drop and hit drop off passes. But I also think like Virginia is like slightly better than probably their record says too. Yep. Like they got off to the defense is better than like what their efficiency numbers say, in part because they have I think what I think is the best perimeter defender in the ACC in Reese Beekman. But
I feel like when Duke, obviously for the past few years, they are bringing in a lot of freshmen playing big minutes for them, and I feel like the first time you play against Virginia is always a little bit of a way. Like the coaches are going to tell you where that double team is coming from, like they know, and the coaches are going to tell you they play really hard defense. And you're like, I know.
Yeah. Well, it's also just like so much of like double teaming, like in the post, is like making sure that the second player like comes in from the right angle with the right timing, and like for teams that do that sporadically, it leaves open a lot of like room for error. But UVA does it every time, so they just like. They know when to bring the man over. They know what angle to do it from, and they know how to rotate on the backside. And like, they're obviously very disciplined and good at doing that. And again, that game was super physical. And like, I do sort of wonder if after the game, some of the stuff Kay was saying was, sort of like knowing that there's gonna be another time this season where they're gonna have to like get into a rock fight like that, and you're gonna want the team to punch back maybe a little bit better than they did at times Monday against Virginia.
Goodson, does State beat Virginia? Does this help their NCAA tournament chances now with Virginia going to win?
I hear what you're saying, BG, but I can't relate to like not playing Virginia and just totally dominating them. So, like,
yeah.
I can't relate. No, yes, it definitely helps State. No.
I can't have the UNC. Are they going to be an NCAA tournament team for a month? I cannot do this. Like it's much like I realize that like voters need to vote in polls in college football, but it's the same of like I cannot start having if these teams win out conversation in like October.
I feel you.
I just can't. Maybe in March, at the turn of March, I might look at like what the bracketology looks like. But I can't.
The weird thing about UNC in this particular year, and like kind of to your point, they don't like they won last night. We'll get into that game obviously, but last night did not change anything. Like Clemson's not a Q1 win. Like it's just a win. It's another number to go on the left side of their win-loss column, and it just. And such, and UNC is not going to be playing anyone else the remainder of the year that we can then have this discussion like, oh, if they just beat this team, does that make them an NCAA tournament team? Because the reality is, it's like, no. Like, they've got a bunch of gross games left except for at Duke at the end. So they're a little bit – they're a different case this year where you don't really have to like every single game. I don't think is going to be a referendum of are they in or not.
Well, it's also weird. That's kind of what the net and the current like state of bracketology is almost brought us to. Is like the people who study these things and know. And Mark Armstrong will be joining us. I don't have another way to let Mark Armstrong know that I do see him, and I will be bringing him into the broadcast here in just a second, other than to say it live on the show. But it does feel like, the people who study this stuff and are experts, and I'm not knocking their expertise, and it's what you're quoting right now, will be like, oh, well, this game doesn't matter at all. Like, this loss doesn't matter. Like, you're like, wait a minute, what? Like, it has to matter whether you win or lose, right? You're like, nah, ultimately, no, doesn't really. Like, if your resume is like this, and this is a certain game, and that's a team, like, nah, it doesn't matter at all.
True, but for UNC specifically, they haven't done anything bad.
Right.
So because of that, the only thing left for them to do is do stuff good. But they don't even have good stuff remaining. And so unless they just lose out to like the remaining teams, that'll fix itself. But I think more importantly, if you are doing the Q1 thing, it's probably a bigger deal of thinking who have you beat that's going to make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. Well, as a UNC fan, I just sort of operate under the assumption that they're going to be in the tournament until I hear that they're not. I don't do the following along who we need to pull for. I'm not paying attention to see if like Oregon State winning last night affects.
Dude, you are lying. You have the net ratings sitting just off screen for their opponents. You're tracking it all.
That's the Perm is exactly right. Like UNC fans are like, we're in.
That's an NC State, Virginia Tech fan like type mentality of like looking at like I don't care what Iowa State did last night and how it affects.
Welcome to the rest of us, big boy. Yeah.
Anything? I'll admit this. I've not finished watching the Clemson UNC game last night. It was at 6:00. It was like too early. I'm one of those. I'm like Roy Williams' least favorite fan. Early games, I'm like, that's too early. Anything after like 8:00, it's too late.
The best thing I saw last night, and I can't remember who it was, but someone on Twitter said it's like this felt like every Clemson basketball game for the last like 15 years under Brad Brownell.
Yeah,
like that's exactly what it looked like. Like they're well coached, and they got the big lead, and the team that has better, superior athletes and talent overtake them at the end, and Clemson lose like in an excruciating way. And there's some random foul weirdness too.
Yeah. They feel like they're like one guard short from being like pretty good actually. Like they could use one more guy. Clemson runs sets, like half court sets, like literally every time down the court. And I think it would probably be nice if they could if there was one guy they could give the ball to and say on at least, hey, on 12 possessions a game, we just need you to drive and like make something happen for us. You know what I mean? Like the way Sebron does for NC State or Jaquavion Smith, like one game breaker in the backcourt for them would be huge. Like they have good guards, but I don't know, just one more person that could actually like unlock a defense, I think would go a long way probably for them.
Jake, your questions are way too in depth. I encourage you to follow Brian at BGuySpur. He'll probably have a breakdown of this exactly, or writing it up at acsports.com. You got to take that question there. We're not answering that one on here. Sorry. And then Brian alluded to it in his title there. There were some illegal screens last night. I even saw a flopping warning for PJ Hall. I like the signal for that. Hold
on. Are you a flopping warning for PJ Hall in that game? Are we not even going to address Armando Davison flailing to the court like he was shot in the chest?
I saw no flopping warning issued to him.
I know you didn't see it. Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
because
Yeah.
the ref was there and he saw it. It was a legitimate fall. Armando's a big dude and he's kind of top heavy. He goes down kind of awkward.
Yeah, except when he's clocking Duke's guards on ball screens too. When he's knocking 3 different guys to the court on Saturday's game. Then he's real sturdy in those moments, right?
Heels got the dub. That's all I care about. All right, we will continue this. Goodson's changed his name like 4 times. We'll continue the discussion of local sports, but let's add our guest who will also ask some questions too and then play the game show. He is, of course, the longtime esteemed lead sports anchor for WTVD 11 here in the Triangle. I hear I think he's originally from New Jersey or somewhere like Boston, maybe. He's got an accent. He's from somewhere north of here. I can't remember exactly where it is. And he apparently is a Utah fan. It is our good friend, great anchor, and now the world's best painter. Great guy to party with. Mark Armstrong joins the show. What's going on, my man?
I'm just parked. I'm on Camp Kanata Drive, just down from Camp Kanata, parked in Hayes. I know you know the answer to this. What is this little Baptist church just down the road?
Well, you're on Highway 98, I assume?
No, I'm not even to 98. I'm on Camp Kanata Drive.
You're literally
there's a tiny little Baptist church there. I thought with your extensive knowledge of YMCA that you would have an answer for me there, but
I'm a Seagull guy. That Kanata's kind of like small time. We thumb our nose at them, so I don't really know up there. So. How you doing, man? Great to have you. Thanks for joining us, and yes, touting your team's soccer victory. I thought you might come in as the king of women's Olympic hockey after Canada put a hurt on USA there, but you're sticking with CONCACAF, huh?
Yeah, CONCACAF is the bigger accomplishment right now. That was just the warm-up game for when we handle all kinds of ass kicking in the gold medal match against the U.S. women too. So I don't get excited about warm-up beatdowns, just the ones that really matter.
Well, it is good to have you. We are going to play the game show, but since we had you here and you look at this. Woodland Chapel Baptist Church. That's our listeners. That's what you get.
Thank you, Todd.
When you're local sports talk. That is Woodland Chapel Baptist Church up there at Wake Forest. But we just want to hear about how you're doing. And how is the painting life? And we want to talk about the transition from being a TV anchor to a painter, man. How's life?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, there's of course things I miss about my old life and lots of stuff I don't miss. This was a long-term play. The thing I missed the most about my old job is the paycheck that would show up every 2 weeks. But the paychecks will stay. I mean, the money in this right now as I'm just getting started is not the same, but that will change. And it's good, man. I'm learning every day. Is a learning experience because I didn't know anything about paint and painting technologies and all that kind of stuff. So I'm learning every day. I've got a great team, which is what is the most important thing. But I go out and sell, and I like, the part that comes naturally to me, as you'd expect, is going out and meeting the customers, talking to the customers, doing the estimates, that kind of thing. So that's the part that's really fun for me, and selling the paint jobs. And then I've got an awesome team that comes in behind me and actually does the paint job. So the market is out there, lots of people, and I don't need to explain to you guys how this area is blowing up. And so all the territories I have
Mark Armstrong starting to look a little bit like he did at 2 or 3 a.m. at an ACC tournament, speaking a little more slowly there. It's a screen glitching up, but we'll see if we can get him back on a connection because we do want to ask him a couple more questions.
I wanted to ask about paint. Does it feel like in the few times I've painted, I feel like I'm almost like a surgeon in the sense of if you drop paint, whatever you drop it on is done for the rest of ever, and you're never going to get it off. Like there's always just this mentality of like whenever it comes to paint, and like if you screw up, it cannot be fixed, and it's like the most nerve-wracking thing in the history of the world.
Got him back. Did you hear the question, Mark Armstrong? And yeah, maybe I should have told you if you told me. Go ahead.
I did hear the question. I didn't know if you guys were still seeing or hearing me. It is a terrifying thing. That's part of why we take great pains to make sure we're setting up a paint station that is protected, that any pouring of paint or any of that stuff is done in an area where it can't get on areas it's not supposed to be on. But when you're painting a house, things are going to happen. So there are ways to get the paint up if you need to. And thankfully, we don't have to do that all that often, but it does happen. So don't feel bad, Josh.
Question: when did you start in this market? Was it 05, 03, somewhere around there?
October of 04. I started like right after Connor Barth beat Miami. Like I was here, but I wasn't on the air yet. That, and then I believe. Tell me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I need to connect to the church's Wi-Fi. That's smart. Tell me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that also shortly after T.A. McClendon being repelled at the goal line? Was that same year?
Same year. It was the same year. It was the Connor Barth beating Devin Hester in Miami was on Halloween, I believe, as well.
Right.
Is that
so? I think that might have been
Sorry, is that when you chose to become a UNC fan?
I knew the question was coming. Although take that up with Marquise Williams, because of late he keeps coming at me on Twitter, and I considered Marquise a friend, and but he's now accused me of being a State fan, which I know you guys will fully accept, especially you, Weather Moose.
Well, here's the thing, Mark. When athletic departments go through times of turmoil, like your preseason top 10 football team did, and your basketball team currently is, it's natural to have infighting amongst the fans. So it's not surprising to me that you and Marquise are going at it. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Certainly not an NC State fan. I can attest to that.
Armstrong, so you were at WTVD for 17 years. I'm roughly doing the math. And is it true?
Yeah.
Did you get out of the game because you could just never break through at WRAL? Like all the years trying to get over there, just couldn't get in?
Years of applying and being turned down. I mean, I couldn't even get in the door for an interview. And I know the guys over there too. And I think that's what was working against me, is they did know me. They've been on the road with me, and they're like, we don't need to bring this poisonous man into WRL. Yeah.
The very sterile environment that is WRL TV.
Jokes aside, I know you're not the only one who's gotten out of local TV broadcasting. I mean, over there at WRAL, Jeff Gravely had been in the game for a long time, and it felt like, turning on your TV, one of you two guys before him, it was Tom Suter. You got Joe Mazer has been in the game for a while with you. He's still there, but there has been a lot of turnover at local TV. You're not the only person who sort of made this decision. I'm not trying to get you to throw dirt on your former employers, certainly. But is there something about the landscape in general of local TV news, or specifically sports, that maybe can foretell why all of these things are happening and why it might continue to happen?
Portell. You said Portell?
I said that, and I'm not sure that I.
Some big words he throws out from time to time.
It wasn't. I don't know. I'm not sure I used it correctly.
I don't even know if that's a word.
Oh, it's not.
It's not.
I'm looking it up.
It was today. Actually, Portell was today's.
I think you may have been going for
today's wordle.
I jammed tell with portend, and I went Portell. A foretell. There's a foretell too. I just kind of mashed them all together there. But yeah, we can stop and appreciate me being an idiot for a second. That's cool.
No, but you hit the nail on the head. It's just like the general direction of the business. I mean, there's a lot of people, and COVID kind of accelerated a lot of people's thinking about this. Like, is this really what I want anymore? And is this fun anymore?
Sorry.
Well, he asked the question, is this really what I want anymore? And no. So it's fine.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're there.
You're back.
Okay, so I kind of lived the life that I dreamed of as a teenager, and had all countless impossibly fun experiences, and got to cover all these huge events. And I just saw, if I could have drawn it up, I probably anchor until I'm 62 and retire, but that wasn't going to be the case. Like ABC 11 wasn't kicking me out the door or anything like that, but there was no way that I was going to be a sports anchor for another 10 years. So I just kind of made a decision. All right, we got to figure out what we're going to do next, and let's do it now while we're young and vital. Even though I turned 50 in June, where I can pour myself into something, and it wasn't the same job anymore, and it wasn't nearly as fun, and it was only going to keep going in the direction away from what it used to be. So I just decided, let's get out now. And then once I decided what I was going to do, I still had a good amount of time left on my contract. I was just like, why wait? So there's no reason to play out the string here. Let's just go do what you're going to do and get the hardest part away of this new venture over and done with, so that you can really start building the business. So that's where we are.
Was it, Mark, was it because the like news cycle now, like you getting on at 6 o'clock or 11 o'clock, you're most likely talking about something that's already existed, and like it's kind of irrelevant at that point. Was it some of that, or was it getting handcuffed by like the access that you had? Like, I'm just curious your thoughts on those kind of two dynamics.
Yeah. I mean, you're putting voice to what the news management people think in that, well, if people want to know about sports, we have the internet, we have ESPN, whatever. But I mean, I know you guys joke about this too, like with your radio show not being on anymore. Like, you know, big local stuff happens over the weekend. Who wants to tune into ESPN radio that's not going to be talking about any of that? That was the same for us. Like, I'm not putting stuff on the air that ESPN is putting on the air. I mean, obviously Duke Carolina highlights, stuff like, yes, there's overlap on those kind of events, but I never understood, and you'll hear every sports anchor say this, why did that only apply to sports? Like, I can go on the internet and get weather and news too.
Right.
And if people, you know, like, why is that only being used against us? So yeah, that was a dynamic but that's existed since I was first getting in the business, but it just became more pronounced. And they just don't, you know, all the audience research and the consultants, they don't think people tune in. They don't tune into local news to see sports. And I totally agree. That's not probably the primary motivating reason people turn on a local newscast. But I think a lot of people want sports as part of the overall package. That's not the number of people whose primary motivation to put on ABC 11 News at 6 o'clock to see me when I was anchoring. I realize that's a tiny fraction of people.
Yeah.
But I still think sports plays, especially in an area like ours and so many others, it's a huge part of the community fabric. So I don't know why everybody's, and it's not just, I don't have anything bad to say about ABC 11 at all. I mean, it was awesome. They changed my life. This is where my life is now, and this is where I'm raising my family because of ABC 11. So, but it's nationwide, and I was never going to leave and go try and be a sportscaster somewhere else because I had the job I wanted here. So once that kind of came to the end and I ran its course and I'm totally at peace with leaving the business, I mean, I knew this is where I wanted to be home. So it was just about deciding what I want to do next here.
Cool. I also think it's like, even if, yes, the actual time, like tuning in to see you at 5:25 or 6:25 or whatever, may not fit into the regular media consumption now, the same way we don't tune into the weather person at whatever time, whatever. But having the local knowledge of, all right, when UNC's arriving in Memphis, you know, me and Game Day Charlie know that they'll give us, even if they're not going to schedule a press conference, they'll give us 3 minutes with Roy off the bus, and you're going to give them that interview via Twitter or whatever it is. But it's like that gets lost. It's like, yeah, maybe people didn't tune in at 5:25 and watch the news that night, but everybody wanted to see, you know, Kay's arrival or whatever, the stuff that you guys know from doing it 15 years or having the relationship with the SID and saying, can you give us 2 minutes outside the hotel? That doesn't have to be on the TV. Especially you, but many of the other anchors who do it well seem to adapt to that new world, a new way of reporting. We're like, yeah, maybe sometimes I write something up. Maybe it's getting the video up first thing of, you know, the person that everyone wants to see arrive with Cam Newton's arrival at, you know, back at Panther Stadium, whatever it is. So I feel like, they kind of missed the boat a little bit on that one.
No, that's all. I was going to just a real quick example where that's concerned. Like the one that pops right to the front of my head is the Sun Bowl, you know, however many years ago, when Bradley Chubb, before opting out, became the thing that everybody does. You know, me and Charlie went down and staked out the state locker room as they were just arriving to the stadium. And I have a 2-minute interview with Bradley Chubb where he says, yeah, I'm sitting out and here's other reasons. Nobody else had that. Like nobody, not the broadcast, the people broadcasting the game didn't have that. So stuff like that, I think you're absolutely right. And we took pride in doing stuff like that, me and Charlie, and in a fun, competitive way. You know, I post that immediately to Twitter. I'm not saving that for air for the reasons you just outlined, but I'm posting it to Twitter because it's great. And I know NC State fans want to see this and want to hear this. That's the primary reason. But then B, I also know, like, Charlie and I would have a great laugh, like RAL is going to crap their pants when they see that we have this interview.
And I want to jump in. And you need to continue your trend of forcing NC State players and/or coaches out of their position, a la Mark Gottfried, as you did in the past. So it's just continuing the truth. It was great work on your part. I love it.
Yeah, how did you break that one?
Right. That's what I'll miss the most, is just really aggravating NC State fans. Really trying to single-handedly torpedo that entire athletic department. No, it's a funny thing. I mean, I just had with Mark Gottfried, I literally had two people whom I trusted completely that didn't know each other and weren't, teaming up to feed me this story, tell me the exact same thing. And so I just went over it, did all my due diligence and kind of did the report I did, which was on a Monday. I remember it was a Monday, 6:00 sportscast. And then for a little bit, I was out in the wilderness. Nobody else was chiming in like they normally do, like can confirm, all those reports.
Yeah.
So I was totally confident, but even when you're totally confident, when you're reporting something that impactful and then nobody else is reporting it for like a day or two, and then you've got Debbie Yao, who's great. She and I get along great, but she's saying I'm fake news, I think, to the Wolfpacker at the time, so you feel yourself kind of whistling in the wind for a couple of days. And then and then obviously whatever it was, 2 or 3 days later, they did exactly what I said was the case. So, and then that's then doubly as edifying when it happens too. Not that a guy's losing his job. That's not the edifying part, but that, your report was exactly correct. Yeah.
I can tell your absence in the game because there's some Mark Gottfried news apparently that's out there that took us a while to get a hold of here on Sports Channel 8 that you would have been all over. I don't have it quite confirmed enough to take it public, but I'll run it by you after the show. So
it's good. Okay. It's very Gottman stuff.
It is.
Okay.
All right.
My mind is already filled with a lot of flowery stuff now.
Yeah, take it to a darker place. All right, since he's here, let's have a little bit of fun.
One more thing.
Okay, well, I'm not going to end, but let me. Okay, go ask your question.
No, I was going to say, leaving ABC, obviously you were Disney employee, right? What kind of perks? What did y'all get? What did you give up by leaving that? Right? Anything big?
Oh, let me tell you. No, there's a bunch of corporate, like 20% off my AT&T bill, but I think that may be still in effect. So let's just keep that between the 5 of us. I had a ESPN Plus, Hulu, Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
I was basically getting that comped.
Ooh.
And again, I think that still may be the case. So again, let's keep that on the down low.
Yeah.
Don't you get
I haven't changed my accounts on that?
Don't you get Disney benefits you go to Disney World?
Yes. No, I was building up to that. Yeah. So especially with, I've got 2 11-year-olds now and a 6-year-old. So I'm still very much in the Disney realm. I would get into Disney for free.
Whoa.
So I could bring not only my own family, but then I would get a bunch of other passes too, where I can bring like my brother and his family and my parents, and we can all go in for free for 4 straight days.
Yeah.
Wow, March. When you think about the cost of a ticket, that's
yeah. Did you really think this through? Like Disney is like the most expensive place to go.
You got kids for another few years.
Or is that something like the Hulu password and the AT&T bill that like you just have a badge that you can still show?
I'll flash it.
Man, this is Mark Armstrong and LeBron James both getting passes because of Disney. That's that's incredible.
We'll try and reconnect with Mark Armstrong while he's away.
By the way, you wanted to bring up to him that Cal State Northridge is 5-16 on the season and has lost
100%.
Has lost 8 straight games. Right? That was what you wanted.
The Gottman's not there. I mean,
that's all we were going to talk about.
Yeah, it's true.
All right,
1-9 in the Big West, man. Not looking good.
Mark Armstrong was famous for calling some highlights, but he also made some highlights. Let's check a Mark Armstrong highlight from the past and have some fun with it. Here we go. Oh,
Bonzie Colson, man.
Why can't I turn the volume on?
Uh-oh.
This is a lot less cool without the volume.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of defeats the purpose.
Sort of important.
Naturally, it's an NC State highlight. Yeah. Perfect.
Maybe I got to mute this one. No. Darn it. Well, it's all for naught.
Look at Torn Dorn going to work, though, baby. I love it.
Dude, this is annoying. Why won't my highlights play? I don't know. Maybe
I know what that was. That was one of my Super Homer highlights.
There's the Homer reel, but I can't. I don't know why it could be. It's really annoying.
NC State absolutely ripping Notre Dame to shreds before falling by 38 points or something.
I might be able to get it another way. Hold on here. Or I actually have a producer lurking in the background that may be able to save me from this. But hold on. Let me try it real quick this way. Share screen. Let's do it from tab, Twitter. Yeah.
Braxton Beverly to Leonard Freeman. No Bonzi Colson for Notre Dame, and that would mean big trouble versus NC State. Torren Dorn creating on the break will wind up pulling up and sticking the mid-range jumper right there. Later in the half, the pack assault would continue. The Irish with no answer for the Braxton Beverly to Leonard Freeman dynamic duo. Notre Dame wins it by 30. No Bonzi Colson for Notre Dame, and that would mean big trouble versus NC State.
You did that one. You did another Canes one that was, I think, even better and longer, and even cooler.
Hey, quick question, Mark. Did you have to read that script at gunpoint? I was just curious.
Hyping up the Wolfpack?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got to get my digs in.
Obviously, you got to cover Super Bowls, Final Fours, some obvious stuff. To me, one of the coolest things that you did was help bring the hype to the NC Pro-Am. I know a lot of people were in on that, but that was one of the things that you sort of specialized. Are there other highlights, either obvious ones or non-obvious ones, like the Pro-Am that jump out at you? Again, I mean, if you want to talk about a Super Bowl story or Final Four story, I'm all here for it. But I didn't know if there was something cool of like, we did this and it was something that I'll never forget.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm terrible when I'm put on the spot like this. I mean, there's all the obvious stuff, like you say, and I mean, we had such a good time on the road, just traveling during the final. The best stuff every year that I most look forward to was ACC tournament and then March Madness. That was the most fun to cover. And then Hurricanes playoff. I'll tell you a funny story from way back in the day. The Hurricanes 2006 Stanley Cup run. We get to Montreal, which was, as I recall, that was their first round, right? They came, because I know they came back. They were almost 3-0 down, and Rod Brindamore scored a tying goal in the third period of Game 3. Canes won. Anyway, long story short, they obviously wanted to win the Stanley Cup. So me and Charlie go up to Montreal, and I check into the hotel, and it turns out we're staying in the same hotel as the team, right? So I see Peter Laviolette in the lobby, just say, hey, and he kind of smiles at me. And I was like, okay, like he knew something. And anyway, so I check in, go up to my room, and I come back. And as I remember it, and I'll have to check with Mike Sundheim to see if it was him who told me this, or maybe it was Peter Laviolette. But no, I think it was Sundheim. But he goes, yeah, Peter Laviolette says you've been having a good time since you got here. He's seen you going up and down the elevator with a couple different women. And I was like, A, I'm married, and B, which obviously doesn't prevent some people from doing that, but I'm not one of them. But and then I'm like, B, I just got here. And so it turns out, and I hope I'm not betraying his my good buddy. It turns out it was Chad Sokol, then of NBC's or Channel 17 back in the day. It was him who had some dalliances with the local female populace, and Peter Laviolette had confused him with me. But anyway, there was stuff like that. But just like that's the stuff, like how athletes when they retire, they miss playing. I don't miss being on TV, but you miss the behind the scenes stuff the most. You miss the locker room. You miss the after the game. That's the stuff you miss the most for sure. So, I've got all those kinds of stories and. Hayes, you've played a prominent role in many of them, but
it's good times. Good times.
But yeah, Pro-Am was amazing. That night when it was CJ Leslie and Ryan Harrow and against the Tar Heel freshmen, I mean, I've never been in an environment more electric than that was. Mm-hmm. Like it was amazing with 700 people outside who couldn't get in because they were
Yeah.
absolutely at capacity.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff is so quintessentially Triangle to me.
Yeah.
And it exists elsewhere too, I know, and there's some other summer leagues that get hyped too, but I mean, it was just the perfect distillation of what made this area so cool.
Yeah,
Well-
I love that event. And also, like, the highlight for me will be seeing Rasheed Wallace playing it, and then also seeing during the lockout when Raymond Felton showed up like 50 pounds overweight, but still twice as fast as anyone on the court. Just this little bowling ball like flying all over the court. Yeah, like it was such a cool mixture of like newcomers, alums, and current guys. And then to have it here was perfect. We need to bring that event back. Like, that was an awesome event.
It was also the year that like Greg Little, former UNC guy, football player, he also dabbled in basketball.
Yep.
Like it was just after the Butch Davis stuff and all of that stuff. Like no one had talked to him, but like I remember there were some people. Mark may have even been there, you know, being able to like, hey, give us your side of what just went down at UNC because it's a pretty big deal. And it just happened to be at the NC Pro-Am. Like,
Yeah.
To BG's point,
Yeah.
like anyone and everyone type deal.
Wouldn't you guys like to see Caleb Love versus Theo John? Let's just throwing out two random Duke UNC names matching up at the Pro-Am. Wouldn't you like to see that?
Just a pluck from the air.
Yeah, right. Just
First, get off the social media and take it to the court. It was something else. All right, with the time we have remaining, I don't know if you know how this works, Mark Armstrong. We're going to play Sports Channel 8, the game show. It's very easy. Myself, Josh Goodson, and Brian Geisinger each have 2 trivia questions for you. The Goodson's category is famous painters. BG, do you have a category for us today?
yes, Canada basketball.
Canadian basketball, and mine is I'll change my name here in a second, but is TV sports anchors. So you'll have to get all our questions. It'll be 2 each. Every question you get right is a point or a token that you carry over to round 2, where you will guess our mystery person. Right. So if you get 4 out of the 6 right, then you get 4 clues to guess the mystery person. You can pick anybody to give you a clue, and you get to guess after each clue. The other thing about the trivia questions is twice during the trivia round, you can ask the Moose, trust the Moose, where you ask him the answer, and all you got to say is agree or disagree. So you got a 50-50 shot at one of those. So it is famous painters. I'll change my name here in a second. But famous painters, Canadian hoops, and TV sports anchors. Who do you want to start with? Mark Armstrong, are you with us? Mark Armstrong currently not hearing us. Maybe I'll play some music and we'll see if he gets in here. Armstrong, can you hear me? No?
No, on sideways.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
All right, it is Sports Channel 8, the game show, but our contestant seems to be frozen. He's going to reconnect and connect here in just a second. We might just have to throw the questions out and see if people can answer in trivia. Yeah, how do we know he's not going up and down in an elevator with somebody?
Whoa.
Yes. All right. There he is. Ready to
Sorry.
roll.
People keep calling me on I had my phone plugged into my car, so when anybody calls me, it disconnects me.
Gotcha. We'll try and make it quick here. All right, your categories: TV sports anchors, Canadian hoops, and famous painters. Where do you want to start, Mark Armstrong?
Let me get the tough one out of the way. Famous painters.
All right. Edward Porter Williams, one half of Sherwin Williams. He attended Case Western Reserve University, which is a private research university in Cleveland. He was there in like the 1800s, long time ago. Okay. Many famous alumni come from Case. Actually, it is random how many famous alumni come from there.
Herb Stendek.
No, wait. But from the sports world, this guy received his master's in physical education in 1953. He went on to become one of the best NFL coaches, Pro Football Hall of Famer, and up until his death was famous for popping champagne when this particular moment happened every year. What is his name?
I am going to say his picture is in. I know it is his face. I can see his face. It's not Mercury Morris.
NFL coach.
Yeah.
Can't tell if he's playing with us.
God, I can see his face, but my 49-year-old addled brain. With the old Dolphins team.
The coach? You can't think of the
Coach
coach?
A lot of steakhouses all over the
Yeah.
place.
Okay. No, I've got it's Shula, but I'm cramping on his first name. Don Shula. Thank you. Don Shula.
That is
Yep.
correct.
And Don Shula, the dad of one of my least favorite nepotism cases in all of sports, the Mike Shula era as offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. Good times.
Yeah.
That's what kept running through my head is Mike, and I'm like, that ain't it.
That's the other thing, Armstrong. Did you ever think about staying in sports just for your sons? Because we know the best way to get in a sports media career is to have a dad who's in sports media. Did you ever think
Yes, I did consider that. I had to get there. I said, listen, I'm crossing you off the list of being sports broadcasters. I hope you understand. Otherwise, you would have your path would be greased. You just take over for me.
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah.
All right, 1 for 1. He's got 1 point already. What category do you want to go with next?
There's 2 questions each.
Yep.
Back to famous painters. I'm running hot.
Matt Painter, longtime Purdue coach.
Herb Sendek.
No, Herb Sendek. Did you know that he was an assistant coach the 1994-95 season at this small university in Wilson, North Carolina?
Oh, wow.
Barton College, then?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Was he there when they won a national title?
No, this is like early 90s, early mid-90s.
Y'all know about Barton College's national title? Were you here for that, Armstrong?
I was, and Atkinson. Yeah, now the Harlem Globetrotter, yeah.
Just actually, I think he may be back here coaching now, but just an incredible. If you ever have a chance to go watch the Barton College, I think D3 maybe national.
You got to watch the finish. Yeah, if people haven't seen that, watch the finish. It is unreal, and look at the size of the shorts on them too. That's the other thing.
One of the greatest finishes of all time. All right, you're 2 for 2. You got Canadian hoops and TV sports anchors as your categories, and you still can trust the Moose twice. What do you got?
Canadian hoops.
All right. Okay. Well, we know Mark Armstrong is patrolling the paint.
I'm going Canadian hoops.
Yeah. All right. Okay. The Toronto Raptors are patrolling the paint in the NBA as well. They're pretty good this year. 2 former ACC players start for the Raptors. Both guys are averaging over 14 points in 34 minutes per game. Name the 2 former ACC players that are a part of what is a pretty good starting lineup for the Toronto Raptors.
Are you a true Canadian hoops fan?
I thought these were going to be Canadian national team.
The other one is. If you went to that one.
God, this is going to be embarrassing that I do not. I know Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam, and from there I kind of go blank on the Raptors.
One of these guys you definitely covered, but
yeah.
You can always trust the Moose.
It's true.
Okay, let's trust the Moose.
All right. So the 2 that I've got in my brain, one was at Duke and one was at Pittsburgh. Gary Trent Jr. and Justin, I never can say this right. Let's just say it's Justin Champagne.
Okay. I'm going to go with, I know Gary Trent Jr. Now, as soon as he said that, I'm like, of course, yes, I know that's one of them. And then
Champagne.
Did Justin Champagne start for the Raptors? I guess, yes. Let's swing on that one, too. I'll take that.
He's going to agree.
He unfortunately does not. Moose let you down. He was 1 for 2. Gary Trent Jr. is one of the 2. He's having a great season, as is former ACC Sixth Man of the Year, Scotty Barnes, who is in contention for one of the best rookies in the NBA. Yeah. Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent Jr. both playing very, very well for the Raptors this year.
That's shameful. I wouldn't have paddled myself for not getting Scotty Barnes, but Gary Trent Jr. As soon as he said that name, I was ashamed I had not come up with that one.
I thought for sure Moose had cheated and looked that up when he pulled those 2 names. That's why I was going with agree, because I assumed that he had cheated to pull Justin Champagne out. That's gamesmanship, Moose. All right, you're 2 for 3. You got 3 questions left. You want to go back to Canadian hoops, finish that out?
Yes, please. Yeah, let's do that.
All right, here we go. Give or take, there are about 25 to 30 active NBA players from Canada, including Delano Banton, who actually plays for the Toronto Raptors. of that group of about 25, 30 players in the NBA from Canada, 4 former ACC players from Canada played at least 100 minutes last season. Name one of those former ACC Canadians that played at least 100 minutes in the NBA last season.
That's an easy one. RJ Barrett.
Yeah, there you go. You could have also given me O'Shea Brissett, who played at Syracuse and now is with the Pacers, or Nickeil Alexander-Walker from Virginia Tech, now with the Pelicans, or Mfiondu Kabengele, who has bounced around a bunch, and I'm not sure if he's on a roster currently.
That's the one I would have guessed, Fiabo.
Yeah.
How long till? Why haven't we put an ACC team in Canada? I mean,
We should. We should.
Only college.
I'll never forget being in. I think it was Cameron in the year that RJ was at Duke, so 18-19. They played the Canadian national anthem before the Syracuse game. I think in Cameron, like for RJ. But that was a game that O'Shea Brissett played in as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, they should, because Toronto produces more D1 talent now than New York City does. And tell Julius Hodge I said that.
Good stuff. All right, you're 3 for 4. You got 2 questions, both in the TV sports anchor category, and I will give them to you. The first is Champ Kind was the TV sports anchor in San Diego alongside his news team, Brick Tamlin, Brian Fantana, Veronica Corningstone, and, of course, Ron Burgundy. Question is, what channel were they on?
The channel something news team. Again, I'm ashamed.
You can ask the Moose.
This should be instant. How many Ask the Mooses do I get?
You get 2, so you got 1 more.
Channel. You know what? I'm just going to say it's the Channel 9 news team. No. I'll ask the Moose.
That's a good one.
I know this answer because this news channel is half as good as the Sports Channel 8 team is. It's Channel 4.
Yeah, that was my second guess. I'll go with Channel 4. Final answer.
That is correct. The Channel 4 news team, I believe their rivals were the Channel 2 news team with West Mantooth.
Yeah.
West Mantooth, yes.
Yeah.
All right, you're 5 for 6. You're 4 for 5. Let's see if you can go 5 for 6. Casey McCall and Dan Rydell were the names of the fictional sports anchors in a TV show that included a cast with Felicity Huffman and William H. Macy. The writer of the show tried out some styles on this show like rapid fire, witty dialogue, and walk and talks that he would later become famous for in his more acclaimed shows, including The West Wing. What was Aaron Sorkin's sports show?
Sports Night.
That is correct. And that I assume that aired about the time you were breaking into the business. Like, did you find it to be like, was it a show that you and all your sports TV anchor friends watched, or was it like, no, that's stupid?
Well, yeah, that and Sports Center, and for me, a show called Sports Line up in Toronto that aired on Global Television every night. That's what spawned my career and made it look like such a fun job that made me want to do that. So I didn't watch. I wasn't like an obsessive viewer of Sports Night, but I certainly did watch.
You want to be Don Cherry when you grew up?
I wanted to be a guy named Mark Hebscher, which won't mean anything to any of you, but Jim Taddy and Mark Hebscher.
Did either of them come to the Canadian State dinner after party that we crashed in DC?
Nope. They surely did not.
There were some TV people there. I remember you saying that. That's why.
Yeah.
Canadian CNN types or whatever.
No, they didn't invite any sports people. It just the anti-sports bias extends to the highest levels of government.
Unbelievable. All right, so you got 5 of 6 right. That's 5 tokens, especially with the help of the Moose, that you get to take into round 2, where you will try and guess a mystery guest with North Carolina ties. That's the only clue we'll give you, although we are a sports show, and sometimes we make the mystery guest a little bit about the contestant. But you can pick from anybody, Moose, Goodson, BG, or myself, to give you any number of the clues. You can bounce around, or you can stay with one person, and you get a guess after each clue you get. You're not wrong just because you guess. So let's start out, get a clue, and make a guess. You get 5.
All right, BG.
Here we go. Jet sweep.
That'll count as one word.
It counts as one word. We're hyphenating it.
Okay.
You want to make a guess? You don't have to.
Josh, good. I'm going to say, can I guess right away?
Yeah.
Jalen Samuels.
No, but good guess.
Yeah.
All right, Goodson.
Jalen Samuels.
Jet sweep and Jalen Samuels.
Mm-hmm.
And this, so I'm understanding correctly. You guys have a guest coming up after.
No,
He's
mystery.
not coming up after. Just a mystery. A mystery
Oh,
person.
okay. Jet sweep, Jalen Samuels. I don't know. That's not helping me. Moose.
Let's go Pitt.
Jet sweep. Should this be obvious to me at this point?
No.
It might be when Permar gives you Permar will give you a layup of all layups. But.
All right, let's go to Hayes then. I feel like I'm failing at this Wordle.
No. I'll go, we've got jet sweep, Jalen Samuels, Pitt.
Can I protest Jalen Samuels being a clue since that was already an answer I gave? How does that help me?
It actually does help you.
I'll go.
Do not give him a layup.
Coordinate.
Coordinate?
Yeah, I was gonna go with Portell, but I change it up.
Matt Canada.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
I need sounder for that. That's my bad.
See, he just gives it away every single time. Every time.
Forget me. We got Mark Wood was in the comments asking how he hadn't asked a Matt Canada question during the trivia thing. And I was like, oh man, I hope Armstrong doesn't see that. Matt Canada, the former offensive coordinator. Is he still the offensive coordinator for the Steelers?
I think so.
I think he
might.
Sure.
It was like disorienting. I don't watch much NFL these days, especially if it's like not Panthers, and to like tune into the Steelers playoff game and just see a shot into the booth and just saying Matt Canada, offensive coordinator. It's like, wait, what happened? Like how did this guy go from being a bad offensive coordinator in the ACC to an NFL job? I must have missed something along the way. So if at any point someone wants to clue me in as to how Matt Canada failed upwards, I would love to know.
And then he supposedly like has just he must have an awful personality, because doesn't he alienate everybody at every stop too?
Yes.
But he was the winning guest today, so you will never forget Matt Canada, our Canadian. We didn't even talk Utah today. We'll see. Is Utah in the NCAA tournament? Are they on the bubble? How's Utah hoops going?
Dude, they lost 10 straight games this year. At one point, a program record streak of futility. So no, we are completely irrelevant. We have a new coach that we stole away from Utah State that hopefully will work out. But we're like the NC State of the Pac-12.
Watching Armstrong sweat out a semifinal Pac-12. They're Pac-12 now, aren't they?
Yes.
Semifinal Pac-12 game while he's in hospitality. The game's on at midnight. Watching Utah like sweat it out is an ACC tournament tradition like no other. So,
but we should mention, because Utah plucked Craig Smith from Utah State. Utah State hired friend of the program Ryan Odom to be he's now the head coach at Utah State, who I don't know if you guys remember, he beat Virginia.
We remember.
Yeah.
Mark Armstrong, we appreciate your time. We hope to have you back here now that you're untethered. There used to be contractual things that kept us apart sometimes based on our different affiliations, but now you are free to join Sports Channel 8 anytime. We appreciate it. Hit up Mark Armstrong at Wow One Day Painting. You can find him on Twitter, or if you just Google Mark Armstrong Painting, it'll pop up. He is the king of CONCACAF, and he's the king of triangle painting right now. He's a great dude. We appreciate the time. Thanks so much for joining us, man.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Sorry for all the interruptions.
For the Weather Moose, for Goodson, check him out for Movement Mortgage. Get your mortgage done. For Brian Geisiger, check out his work at ACCsports.com and the BuzzBeat Radio. I'm Hayes Permar. We're out.
Sports, when you've got a great ball club. Sports.